Hi, this is Joe Hage. I have the privilege of leading your medical devices group, which, as of this recording, has 349,000 members worldwide. And I'm very happy to introduce my friends from ReadTech. This is our 8th webinar together. They are one of our most popular speakers. And today they brought us Nick and Rachel. They're experts in big data, and there's a lot of it out there to help us do our jobs better. Nick and Rachel, I introduce you, and I will put myself on mute, and I'll be at the end with the questions. Thank you so much for being with us today.
All right. Thank you, Joe, and welcome everyone to Leveraging Big Data to Mitigate Medical Device Risks. So I'm Nick Tasse-Guillen, and I'm a Senior Product Manager for Life Sciences here at ReadTech, and I'm joined today by my colleague Rachel Benway, who is also on ReadTech's product management team. So ReadTech, in case you aren't familiar with us, is a leader in analytics and information solutions and services for government agencies, the intellectual property market, and of course the life sciences industry. So we're a part of LexisNexis, which is itself a part of the RELX group, which you might know better by its former name, Reed Elsevier. And so lately, there's been a lot of attention placed on medical device safety and quality. As you're probably well aware, there have been a lot of media stories in the past few years about devices like female permanent contraception, power morcellators, transvaginal mesh, duodenoscopes, to name some of the most prominent ones. And that has prompted congressional attention. So just last year, there was a Senate investigation into duodenoscopes. There was also a House bill that was introduced last June called the Medical Device Guardians Act, and that was prompted by issues reported with power morcellators. And that bill seeks to require individual physicians to report adverse events involving medical devices instead of primarily relying on hospitals and manufacturers, as is the case today. There's also another House bill introduced just this year called the Medical Device Safety Act, which aims to remove barriers against filing lawsuits for Class 3 medical devices. And I think at least in part due to that increased interest and attention, FDA has also been putting a lot of support behind medical device safety and quality, which is great. So they're supporting a few key initiatives on these topics. One is the Case for Quality initiative, which is being run out of the Medical Device Innovation Consortium, or MDIC for short. Case for Quality has several working groups, including one on quality metrics and another one on product quality outcomes analytics, which ReadTech has just recently joined. And then another FDA initiative being run out of MDIC is the National Evaluation System for Health Technology, or NEST. And that one's looking at creating a network of clinical registries that can be used to do in-depth clinical analyses on devices that have registry data for them. And then a third initiative, which is being run out of MD-EpiNet, which is called the Delta Project. And that one seeking to create a technical framework for real-time surveillance of clinical EHR or registry data for medical devices. And it's also worth noting that when you add up the cost of FDA enforcement actions that are related to medical device safety and quality, adds up to over $4 billion per year. So that number comes from a white paper that McKinsey published a few years ago, which has the estimated costs for different types of enforcement actions, such as recalls. And then we also did an analysis of FDA's data to determine the number of each type of enforcement action each year. And then we just did the math to come up with that $4 billion figure, which really is quite staggering. So despite all of that attention and the potential financial ramifications, we found through our research that many manufacturers aren't performing regular data analyses to identify risks earlier on. Some of the challenges and reasons why they're not doing that today is because it's difficult to search the existing FDA databases that are out there. Also, internal data is oftentimes locked in proprietary systems, and those might not have a way to export or easily report on their underlying data. Or the data might just be siloed in spreadsheets in different people's offices. And there's also, in many organizations, just a lack of analytics tools and expertise. So all that has led us to find through our discussions with manufacturers that many of them are only able to perform post-market surveillance reviews 1 or 2 times per year, or in some cases have no formal process at all. And our understanding based on our research is that industry best practice is that this type of activity should really be getting performed monthly, if not more frequently. So how can medical device manufacturers stay out of that spotlight? We at ReTech have been focusing a lot on leveraging big data to help manufacturers avoid the spotlight. In particular, we believe that when data is prepared and analyzed in the right way, that it can be used to enhance post-market surveillance, clinical evaluations, failure mode analyses, risk analyses, and even competitive intelligence, because the problems that are facing your competitors' products could potentially be risks to yours as well.
Well, Nick, the reason why more regular analysis of safety and quality risks aren't taking place certainly cannot be due to a lack of data, can it? I know that when we looked back at the past 3 years, which is really the minimum you need in order to identify trends of safety and quality issues, there have been 2.6 million adverse event reports, 26,000 recalls, 12.7 thousand MedSun reports. And for those of you who may not be familiar with MedSun, it's an FDA program which allows a certain set of hospitals around the country to report their adverse events. And in addition to the standard serious injuries, deaths, and malfunctions, they also report when they believe there's a potential for harm from a medical device that they have used. So it kind of augments the standard adverse event reports that are found in the FDA's NonMod database. Additionally, there are 2,500 clinical trial results that have been published to clinicaltrials.gov in the past 3 years. Also, hundreds of warning letters and post-market surveillance or post-approval studies. In addition to the ones that you see here, there are other sources of information related to safety and quality from the FDA, like safety alerts, inspection findings, announcements about injunctions, seizures, and consent decrees, and that's just in the U.S. Outside of the U.S., you can find online adverse event reports from TGA in Australia, and there's also multiple countries out there that publish recalls and safety notices on the web. Furthermore, with the new medical device regulations just passed in the EU, they're planning to make more information public about medical devices and their safety through the new version of UDABED, which is the EU's database for medical devices. What's needed to turn these disparate data sources into information is the linkages between each of the sources to individual medical device products. This will allow the user to easily search for a product and then analyze and compare medical device safety and quality risks together in one place, which can turn all of this information into knowledge. We found that contained within the FDA's approval and clearance database and the UDI database known as GoodID, along with the event data already mentioned, there are about 100,000 distinct medical devices. When you're looking into implementing your own medical device safety and quality analytics solution, there are really only a few options. If you have the technical expertise and resources in-house, you could develop your own solution internally. Or you could hire a consulting firm to create a solution for you. But in either of these cases, it's important to note that it's not just a once-and-done deal. Even if you go out and do all the work for the millions of records that are out there today from a historical standpoint, keep in mind that every year there are over 800,000 adverse event reports getting added to the NonMod database, 7,500 recalls added every year, and all the other data sources get added to as well. Additionally, at some point it looks like the EU is going to start publishing more safety data, so it's certainly going to be an ongoing problem, and you should approach it in that way. So keep that in mind before you go down the path of developing your own solution. The alternative, of course, is to buy an out-of-box solution. Here at ReTech, over the past 2 years, we have developed one such solution we're calling ReTech Navigator for medical devices. In the process of creating Navigator, we did some exploration into how these research and analytics tasks are completed today. What we heard was that people go to the individual FDA websites, search them, and try to get to the detailed reports that mention a particular issue or whatever it is that they're researching. Along with that, we conducted a survey back in November of some medical device manufacturers to try to understand how that process is working for them. They told us that there are certainly some pain points with the existing methods for doing this kind of research. What we heard is that it is hard to search and retrieve meaningful results. It takes a long time, and the data sources aren't clean. So there are ways to go about it today, but it's just not easy. The pain points highlighted in that survey are directly linked to functional limitations of the existing tools. If you decide to go down the path of creating your own solution, which would involve going out, gathering all the data, and connecting it together, you would also want to create a design that overcomes the following obstacles to help with the described pain points. Having too many different databases, which you'd certainly avoid with how you'd be consolidating the different data sources for analysis. Really try to make search as easy as you can, and don't limit the search results to too small a number, because sometimes you want to be able to get back a lot of the results and then filter them further, which is hard to do with the current methods. Also, for convenience sake, it's nice to be able to just page from one record to the next as you're researching a particular problem. By eliminating these obstacles, you'll really increase your efficiency and cut down on your research time for the users of the solution. When creating Navigator, we took all of these items into consideration.
So there's definitely a lot that you can do with that data and get meaningful insights, but you might be wondering, how do you get started? So the first step is to really get your arms around the data, and where you need to begin is to create a clean list of manufacturers and their products. Because if you don't have that, then you're going to wind up with a mess on your hands, and your data is going to be hard to analyze. The reason that I say that you need a clean list of companies and products is because we've found through our own analysis of the FDA databases and other databases that are out there that there can be literally hundreds of minor variations in company and product names across those data sources. And so how do you do a trend line for a particular product when that product is referred to by many different names, and even the company of that product is referred to by many different names? What you need to do is you really need to get yourself to a point where you have a master database of companies which themselves have a distinct set of products, and ideally, if you can get to that level, those products should have a set of models associated with them. And then from there, you can start associating other information with these companies and products. It's important to note that in order to get to a clean list of products, you need to start with that with a good company list. And what makes a company list good is that it doesn't have duplicates of the same company going by slightly different names. It should also track parent organizations and their subsidiaries, and it should keep track of mergers and acquisitions, because over time, what you'll find is that a particular product that's showing up as belonging to one company might start showing up in the data a few years later associated with a different company because that initial company has been acquired. And luckily, there are some pretty comprehensive options out there in terms of company data. So LexisNexis, ReTech's parent company, has the LexisNexis Corporate Affiliations Database, which is what we've leveraged within ReTech Navigator and, of course, recommend. But I also know that there are many companies out there that use Dun & Bradstreet as their source of company information, which I'm sure is perfectly fine as well. And there are probably other offerings out there, too. Also, if you don't already have the source of comprehensive company information and you're only really interested in looking at a relatively small number of companies and their products, you can actually develop your own master list of companies on your own, and I'd recommend that you begin with FDA's Establishment Registrations Database. All right, so once you have your clean list of company information, then you need to start building up your master list of products. And the way to think about solving this problem is that your primary source for a product should be where you would expect to see that product first within the data. And so for class 3 products, which are the highest risk ones, all those require pre-market approval, so you'd expect to find the first instance of those products in the PMA database. Products that come to market via the humanitarian device exemption pathway, or HDE for short, would also be found in this database. For class 2 products that have to be cleared for sale by the FDA via the 510K pathway and that are sold under the 510K applicant's brand, the 510K database is the best place to look for them first. It's also worth noting that within the 510K database, if you download it, you'll also find devices that came in through the de novo pathway. And then finally, for those class 2 devices that are 510K exempt or that are sold under a private label brand, the Good ID database would be the first place that you'd expect to find those products mentioned in the data. And I should also mention that beginning in September of 2020, Good ID is where you'd start to find class 1 devices, which are the lowest risk medical devices. And before I leave the slide, there are a couple of tips that I can mention here. And one, if you're only really interested in tracking certain products, you can limit the amount of data that you really need to sift through by slicing it by FDA product code or by company, if that's the way you want to do it. And if you're not familiar with them, and probably most of the audience here is, but the FDA product codes are those 3-letter codes that the FDA uses to categorize medical devices. I should also mention that when you're looking at the 510K database, the FDA rarely goes back and updates old 510Ks. So that really brings into play the mergers and acquisitions example that I talked about earlier, where you need to be careful because you might find an older 510K listed under the company A, but really that device is now sold through company B because it has since acquired company A. So just something to watch out for, and that's why being able to track those mergers and acquisitions is important in your company database. All right, so now that we have a clean list of companies and products, what comes next? Well, the next logical step is to go out and begin downloading and connecting safety and quality events to those products. And so what you want to wind up with is a set of relationships that look like the ones that you see here on the screen. You want to be able to connect things like adverse event reports, recalls, and warning letters to products. And ideally, you want to do that by connecting through IDs where you can. So for example, in the recall database, many recalls reference 510K numbers, which is great because you can use those to find the products that those 510Ks represent. However, in certain cases, you might not have an ID like that, so you have to use a combination of company name, brand name, as well as FDA product code or GMDN term. And if you're not familiar with it, GMDN stands for Global Medical Device Nomenclature, and it's a widely used standard set of terms used to identify medical devices that are the same generic type. So now we've gone through and connected safety and quality events to our list of products. And so the next question is, are we now ready to start actually analyzing that data? Well, not quite yet. We still have to go through and classify standardized safety and quality metrics. And I'll show you what that means in the next couple of slides. So one of the challenges with some of the safety and quality data sources out there is that a lot of the key data is included within unstructured text descriptions, like you see here on the left. In order to get to the point where you can do quantitative analyses and generate the kinds of charts that you see on the right, you really have to go through and pick out and standardize the specific problems with those, within those text descriptions, so that you can then crunch the numbers on how many of those problems there are. For a small number of records, you can certainly do this manually, but for a significant volume, you're going to need to automate the standardization using techniques like machine learning and natural language processing, in which case you'll definitely want to get a technical resource involved. It's also worth noting that when you're implementing that kind of process, that you're careful to look out for negative keywords like not or lacked, so that if the description says that there was no swelling, you don't wind up counting that adverse event report towards the number of reports mentioning swelling. And the good thing is that there are multiple standards out there to choose from when it comes to device and patient problems. So the FDA, or really CDRH, maintains its own list of or set of standardized device problems and patient problems, which you can download through the NCI. And just last month, the FDA harmonized its device problems with IMDRF's new adverse event terminology. There are also some other ones out there like Medra, SNOMED, and WHOART that you might be familiar with. But whichever one you choose, just make sure that you pick one and standardize on it so that you can have a standard set of data to analyze.
So to recap what I've heard, there are 3 main steps that you need to go through to prepare your safety and quality data for analysis. Step 1 is to create a clean list of companies and their products using master data sources. Step 2 is to connect safety and quality events to those products and companies using identifiers whenever possible. And step 3 is to classify safety and quality metrics using one of those standard terminologies that you mentioned.
All right, so hopefully we've now established that there's a lot of data out there on medical device safety and quality, and that keeps growing every year. But what can that data really tell us? Once properly prepared, different types of data can support multiple use cases, such as clinical evaluations, risk analyses, competitive intelligence, post-market surveillance, and failure mode analysis.
We'd now like to show you some of the possible analyses and visualizations that are possible with this standardized data. Shown here, you can see we have brought many of the data sources into a single view for this product. You can easily see how many adverse event reports, 185, warning letters, 0, and recalls, 2, for this product that they have had over the past year, along with the growth in each of these areas. Additionally, this view will quickly highlight any red flags, such as the large growth in adverse event reports of 42% for this product compared to last year, whereas there's actually been a decrease in recalls and units recalled, represented by the growth shown in green here.
Another example that we have next here is asking the question, are there specific failure modes that are more commonly associated with my product compared to similar products? And so you can see on the chart here that the blue bars represent my product and the green bars represent the average of similar products. And what hopefully jumps out to you in the middle of the chart is that there are a few specific types of failure modes which are being reported in higher percentages for my product than for similar products. And it's important to note here that we're looking at the percentages of adverse event reports in which these issues occurred, because especially with adverse event reports, to make a fair comparison, you really need to look at the percentages instead of total counts, because one product could have sold many more units than another. This approach of using percentages instead of the raw counts is in keeping with the approach that was outlined by the Case for Quality's Product Quality Outcome Analytics Working Group. So these types of charts that Rachel and I have just shown are definitely beneficial to be able to narrow your focus down to what might be a problem or a potential failure mode that you need to look into further. But it's not just about the numbers in these charts. So you need to understand why you're seeing those numbers. So if on the left here you see that your product has a higher percentage of mentions of peeled than similar products, you need to be able to go a level deeper and understand why you're seeing that. Isn't that right, Rachel?
Yes, that's right. Unlike with NonMod, the FDA's adverse event database, with the right data preparation and user interface, researching these product risks can be completed in minutes. Shown here is a compiled list of all the adverse events for a specific medical device product. With this view, you can see the type of adverse event report it was, the patient problems, device problems, and the event date. With these pieces of information shown up front, we can intelligently choose which reports we want to view in more detail. If I want to research a specific device problem, I can easily filter the list for the device problem I want to research. In this case, we're looking at breaks or broken devices by typing breaks into the filter. But if we, as in Nick's example, wanted to research peeled, you could easily do that. This will bring up all the adverse events that include break as one of the device problems. I no longer have to read through hundreds or even thousands of adverse event reports to find the ones that I'm interested in. I now already have a narrowed down list of reports to focus on.
So the next example here is asking the question, how are reports of a specific problem trending for my product compared to my competitor's product? And in this case, we're looking at reports that are involving material separation. You can see here pretty clearly that for my product, which is the line in blue, for some reason the percentage of reports including material separation has been growing over the past couple of years, much faster than the other product, and that's perhaps something that we should look into more closely to understand why that trend is occurring. Alternatively, let's say that those lines were reversed and the blue line represented my competitor's product. Well, in that case, that could potentially be an interesting source of information for my sales team and an opportunity for my business.
And in this example, which is looking at recall data for a similar set of products, we can see which ones have had the most recalls and also how large they were in terms of the number of units. For example, here you can see that product C in the middle has had the most in terms of number of recalls. But product D, which has the largest bubble, has had the largest number of units recalled in the time period that we're looking at. This type of analysis will give device manufacturers an idea of where they stand compared to their competitors in terms of recalls and units affected by those recalls.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground so far. Let's talk about where to go from here. So we talked previously about your options for implementing your own solution and some of the challenges involved in developing and maintaining it over time. Hopefully the information that we shared earlier in the presentation gives you a better idea of what's required to prepare the data for analysis. And you should also keep in mind that you'll need some kind of business intelligence solution to create the types of charts and graphs that we saw. The other option that we recommend is to find a solution provider who will do that hard work for you. And that, of course, is why I'm very excited to tell you about ReTech Navigator, which is a brand new way to research and analyze medical device safety and quality. So we've put a big focus on our user experience, allowing you to quickly and easily search for Class 2 and 3 products and search for the adverse event reports, recalls, as well as warning letters for those products. And we plan on continuing to add additional data sources over time. It'll let you, from a web browser, whether it's on your laptop, tablet, or even your smartphone, view trends and benchmarks of key safety and quality metrics. And you'll even be able to do head-to-head comparisons of similar products. So if you want to look at your products versus your competitors or look across products within your own portfolio, you can do that. As well as we talked about earlier, it's not just about the charts and graphs. You also need to be able to dig into the details. And Navigator will allow you to do that in one place across multiple FDA sources. So I'm also happy to tell you that Navigator is now launching. So we spent the better part of the past 2 years, laying the groundwork, doing the research, and working through many iterations to improve our data preparation algorithms, and developing our initial set of search capabilities, charts, and graphs. And over the past few months, we've been beta testing Navigator with medical device manufacturers, both big and small, and from a variety of specialties. And the feedback that we've been receiving has been very positive, and we've had users from regulatory, quality, R&D, as well as other functions tell us that that Navigator will make it easier, faster, and more effective for them to conduct post-market surveillance, do things like identify potential failure modes for new devices they're working on, analyze competitors' products, and more. And to give you a sense of the insights that Retech Navigator can deliver for your organization, we're inviting the medical device manufacturers who are attending today's webinar to schedule a free product review with our team following today's event. So during a brief call, we'll use Navigator to quickly show you the profile for one of your company's Class 2 or 3 devices, or competitors if you'd prefer. Just send us an email at the address you see here, meddevice@retech.com, and mention that you'd like to schedule a product review, and we'll reach out to you and find a time that works. So if you'd like to learn more about Navigator or any of Retech's other products, or have any questions about the content of the presentation, feel free to reach out to the Retech Life Sciences team using the contact information that you see here. It's also worth mentioning that we'll be at RAP's Regulatory Convergence, as well as the AdvaMed MedTech Conference in September. So with that, I'd like to turn things back over to Joe and open things up for questions.
Thank you, Nick and Rachel. That was a great job. And yes, we have questions. The first one is from Jean, and she asks, how are you obtaining the denominator of various products?
So that's where we are really leveraging the approach employed by the Capes for Quality with their dashboard that they developed. And so instead of looking at the raw counts of data, we're primarily looking at percentages. And so that way, you can see that for one product, if 30% of their adverse event reports involve a specific device problem, whereas only 10% of similar devices adverse event reports involve that device problem, then there's some kind of difference there that needs to be investigated. And so we recognize that there'd certainly be more ideal if we had that denominator, but the data is just not available to anyone.
Thank you. And I just sent a link to the entire audience where they can download the slides. The replay will be there later. And where you see that message is where you can type in your questions for Nick and Rachel. Naveen asks, adverse event data is typically underreported and the level of detail varies. Do you have any suggestions on how to handle this issue?
So we are, we're leveraging the data that's out there, and our approach has been to take what FDA has made public and augment it. So one of the big things that we found with the MOD database is that for the most part, you might get one device problem in the data. In very few cases, you might get patient problems in the public data. But if you actually mine the text descriptions, you'll be able to code more device problems and certainly patient problems than get published back out to the public. So there are ways to improve upon that data. I know also that there are summary reports that get filed And so those can be kind of dissected, and if you will, you can kind of determine that what gets published as one report really represents many many incidents. So that's I guess another thing that I can mention.
Thank you. Beth asks, what device types or classes may find the most benefit from this data analysis?
Well, certainly the higher risk devices, so class 3 for sure, but also class 2 devices. That's where we put our focus. And what's interesting is that when we began opening this up for our solution, Navigator, up for beta testing, we expected that we'd get more interest from certain clinical specialties like cardiovascular, orthopedics that have lots of adverse event report type data reported on them. But what we found is that there's been kind of interest across other specialties as well. So really kind of across the board for those class 2 and 3 devices.
Daniel asks, are non-mod data sources such as registries used to compile failure modes?
So they certainly can be. The challenge there is that it's harder to get access to registry data. They're typically very narrow in scope, so focusing on very specific types of devices. But certainly, if you're working on that type of device and you can access or have the resources to access those and analyze them, that makes sense. Other data out there would be clinical trial results, post-approval studies, things along those lines.
James asks, how do you handle non-English text inputs?
So far, we have been just looking at English language sources. And I'm just going to speak in terms of what we've been, the data that we've been working with for Retech Navigator. Initially has been largely FDA, but we've also been looking out at TGA's database of adverse event reports and mining other data like safety alerts and recalls, which are more broadly published by international regulators, focusing on English language just because of our capabilities. But over time, depending on the demand, we'll look at foreign language sources as well.
Nick, during the presentation, you took us through a couple of steps: getting a clean list, connecting safety and quality events to those products, etc. With Navigator, can you help us from step 1, or do we have to do some stuff on our own before Navigator becomes useful for us?
It's really it's an out-of-the-box solution. So we have done the work in terms of developing the company and product database and associating initially adverse event reports, recalls, and warning letters to those. But as a part of creating our database, we've also mined the approvals and clearances, so things like PMAs and 510Ks from all the way back to when they were first began getting published, establishment registrations and device listings, and UDIs from the Access Good ID database. We just haven't exposed them through the Navigator UI yet, but definitely on our roadmap.
Laurent wants to know, among those who've beta tested the product, what are the more common requests? What are they searching for? How are they using the product?
So they have been, well, it depends on who the user has been. So we've had, I'd say the bulk of our beta users have either been looking at post-market information, so folks in regulatory and quality who've been doing post-market surveillance, and also a lot looking at competitors' products. And then folks on the R&D side have been most interested in looking at products that are similar to the ones that they are developing to look for potential failure modes and kind of understand the types of issues that have been experienced by similar products.
Thank you. And I have a question for the audience. I may get some answers typed in. And that is, have you struggled with this at your organization? Have you attempted to use the raw databases, and what problems have you run up against? Are they the same as the ones that have been identified today? And how incremental do you see this solution being for you? Now back to the other questions. Charles asks, who can benefit from quality and safety analytics?
So I would say, based on our research and the feedback we've been getting from our beta testing, it's a combination of folks from regulatory and quality, largely focusing on things like post-market surveillance, assisting with clinical evaluations, just kind of general risk analysis. And then on the R&D side of things, looking at failure mode analysis and just kind of understanding competitors' devices that are out there.
Thank you. Sylvia asks, don't you need to take sales volumes into account in order to make fair comparisons between products?
Sure, and this goes back to the earlier question about the denominator issue. And so again, we've taken the approach of trying to make it a fairer comparison by looking at percentages of things that are occurring, as opposed to directly comparing counts of problems or adverse events to recalls, things like that.
Thank you. Mega asks, what sources do you use to get access to manufacturing warning letters?
So for warning letters, we just go directly to the FDA site, and we've just searched that database and looked for we've developed a method to look for the ones that are device related. And then from there, what we do is we actually mine the text of the letter itself to associate them at least with the right company in our database. And if there are mentions of products, we will also match them up with those. And then finally, within the warning letters, we associate those with if there are mentions of CFR sections, we will pull those out. So then we can do some charts in terms of the top CFR sections that have been cited for certain device or certain types of devices.
Thank you. And my friend Julie writes in that she doesn't have much faith in the quality of the data in the databases. NonMod comes with a whole list of caveats which can be read on the website. Providers are not reliable sources. Nick and Rachel, do you have a comment?
Sure. I mean, certainly it's not a perfect source of information, but I would say it's a lot better than nothing, and it will give you a sense for what, if I pick one example from the slide here, failure mode analysis, it will give you a good sense for the types of issues that are being reported for competitors' devices that you should watch out for your own devices, and may give you signals in terms of potential issues that your products are having as well.
Lakshman wrote he has worked with keywords on mod. I wrote him back and said, how effective was it for you? We'll see if he has a chance to answer. Ariella asks, how do we access the Adverse Events FDA database?
I don't have the URL because they don't have very easy to remember URLs. But if you just Google FDA mod, it's M-A-U-D-E, you should be able to find the database pretty easily.
Zach wants to know, is there an FDA mandate for this type of analysis?
So there's not a very clear-cut mandate for this type of analysis, but in general, you need to be doing risk analyses and kind of management reviews periodically, and looking at this type of data. The FDA doesn't really kind of spell out you must do this specific type of thing, but they certainly recommend trending of adverse events and things of that nature.
Carolyn asks, how frequently does this type of data get updated by FDA and other regulatory bodies?
That depends on the type of data. So one of the challenges is that FDA has so many different device-related databases, and they're all updated on different frequencies for the most part. So just to give you a few examples, the approvals and clearances, so PMAs, 510Ks primarily, are updated on a monthly basis, I think at the beginning of the month. Access Good ID, which has the EDI information, is updated on a daily basis, I believe. Then the MOD database is interesting. So they theoretically update it on a weekly basis, but from what we've found is that there's a big update at the beginning of the month, and then there are a few minor updates in subsequent weeks in that month. And then other information like recalls get basically they get posted as they happen, so you need to be checking them on a daily basis.
Lakshman wrote back and said that his work with keywords on MOD was a manual post-processing of the raw dump, and he said it was definitely labor-intensive. So I will congratulate you for the Navigator launch. When will it be live, fully live?
So it's live now with beta testers. We just want to make sure that we've got any of the big kinks worked out, which at this point we have. And so the official launch will be within the next week or two.
Very good. And I can say that if I were manufacturing medical devices myself, I would definitely take you up on the product review, especially since it's free. So thank you for offering that to the group. Any closing thoughts?
And thanks very much for allowing us to give the webinar. I hope it's informative. Even for I hope it didn't sound too salesy. And that there was useful information, even if you're not interested in purchasing Navigator. In terms of giving you an understanding for the type of data, the amount of data that's out there, and what's really involved in getting your hands around it and getting it to the point that you can really start to get some useful information out of it.
You guys did a great job, and I'm grateful for the chance to share your knowledge with the group. So on behalf of the Medical Devices Group, this is Joe Hage, and we'll see you online. Thank you very much.